Sometimes the loudest sound in a room isn't laughter or conversation. It's the moment you realize everyone you love has mistaken you for their personal ATM, and on the night I finally exposed the truth, the silence that followed was louder than any betrayal I've ever lived through. Beginning. The lie they built around Meth Carver family Thanksgiving table was always impressive, but that year, it looked like a monument to delusion. Mom had turned our dining room into a banquet for royalty. Maple glazed turkey, saffron rice stuffing, wine older than I was. Every dish shimmered under the chandelier like a performance she'd rehearsed for months. That I sat at the far end, my assigned end, quiet, invisible, carving my food while they bragged about their newest toys, a private jet share my father invested in, the ocean view villa my mother renovated, the second yacht my brother earned through brilliant business decisions, all fiction, all funded by me, all while they believed I was barely getting by. Lena, sweetheart, Mom finally said, flicking her silk napkin like she was conducting a symphony, you really should start contributing more. Your brother's yacht maintenance alone is $17,000 this month. $17,000. That I raised my eyes. Is that so? Leo, my older brother, laughed like he'd just heard the punchline of the century. He swirled his wine, a bottle he'd bought with my money. Well, we can't all be wealthy, little sister. But you can at least help the family. That's what the inheritance is for. Inheritance, the imaginary pot of gold they insisted existed, the mythology that kept their egos warm at night. They weren't spending inheritance, they were bleeding me dry. 5 years earlier, I'd built a startup that exploded in value. Sold it. Invested. Multiplied, and somehow, my success had turned into family money. They convinced themselves our ordinary, middle-class family had suddenly become aristocrats overnight, and I, according to them, was the only one who hadn't achieved anything middle. The breaking point. Their requests grew bolder with every meal. Lena, we need $48,000 for the winter property taxes. Lena, the estate staff needs holiday bonuses. Lena, Leo's hosting a regatta fundraiser, money well spent. Regatta, fundraiser, charity gala, everything was a performance to impress strangers. One night, after they listed a new round of absurd expenses, I simply said, I'll handle it tomorrow. But tomorrow wasn't for them. That it was for me. For months I'd been quietly working with forensic accountants and the president of my bank. Their spending had become so outrageous the bank assumed fraud. Federal agencies were reviewing our accounts. Even the IRS was alert. So I scheduled a meeting and invited my family. Investment strategy, I told them. Inheritance optimization. They arrived dressed like royalty walking into a coronation. The meeting, the collapse of their fantasy. The bank's executive boardroom overlooked the entire city. Marble floors, panoramic windows, the kind of space that whispers power. They thought it was theirs. President Valeria Ng spread a stack of papers across the table. Ms. Lena Carver requested a complete forensic review of all household financial activity. My mother leaned back, confident. Wonderful. We've been meaning to restructure the family trust. There is no family trust, Valeria replied calmly, and there has been no inheritance. The room froze. She pressed a button and the presentation lit the wall. $3.1 million annually in family spending, $0 in legitimate income. 100% of funds originating from accounts belonging to Lena Carver. My father's face drained of color. There must be some mistake, he stammered. Our investments. You have no investments, Valeria said gently, like she delivered this news many times before. You have expenses. That's very different. Then came the final slide. $54.8 million earned and invested by Lena Carver from 2019, 2024.0 contributions from the rest of the Carver family. That I didn't speak, that I didn't need to. Every secret they'd built their world on was unraveling. You've called your daughter the financially irresponsible one, Valeria finished. In reality, she has funded every mortgage payment, car purchase, yacht expansion, art acquisition, and travel expense your family has made for 5 years. The silence that followed, it felt like the world holding its breath. The aftermath. When the money stopped that evening, I shut everything down, every card, every automatic transfer, every account they had access to. 5 years of entitlement evaporated in a single hour. Within a week, Leo's yacht was repossessed mid-dock. Mom's art collection went to auction. Dad's jet membership was terminated. Within a month, their estate, over-leveraged and unpaid for, went into foreclosure. Within 2, their social circle evaporated. Funny how fast friends disappear when you stop paying for their cocktails. and they tried everything, Leo called, screaming, "You can't cut off the inheritance." "There is no inheritance," I said softly, "there never was." Mom went from blaming to crying to bargaining within a single phone call. Dad insisted there must be legal papers hiding somewhere, real proof, that I was wrong. But the truth is louder than any lie. They weren't victims, they were addicted, not to money, but to the illusion of superiority funded by someone they looked down on. The real legacy. 6 months later, they were living in a small rental across town. Working real jobs, living real lives, facing the world without a fantasy to hide. Behind .as for me, my investments continued to grow. .my patents paid dividends. .my life finally belonged to me again. Sometimes I walk past the framed copy of the bank report in my office, not out of spite, but because it reminds me of something important. Truth isn't just freeing. It's expensive, but it's worth every dollar when you finally decide who you are, and who you won't allow yourself to be anymore. If you've ever been the responsible one, the quiet one, the taken for granted one, remember this: your generosity is a gift, not an inheritance, not an obligation, and definitely not a personality trait for others to exploit. So tell me in the comments, would you have cut them off too?